First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately?
Furthermore, the equation E is equal mc squared.
We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature.
That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, oh, this is a physics excursion.
Science. What is it all about?
The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of the nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time.
Our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
Hopefully we'll hear that sound today when the SLS takes off. You are tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, your community broadcaster. Be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4zzz.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to our show or any 4ZZZ show using the on-demand feature also found at their URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum prefers. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K, your weekly dose of science. Then joining me for this episode to speak about all things science are two of my favourite science influencers. Howdy, Peta.
Howdy.
Howdy,
Brain
Gabriel.
on.
Max, the word of the week has been fuel around the country, and a lot of discussion on fuel alternatives has come up: electric vehicles, solar, wind, even nuclear being thrown around every now a little bit. But there's two things that come up when people bring up nuclear. One, of course, is that Max has just realised where we're going with this. One's the meltdown risk and the risk of the actual reaction process, and the other's the nuclear waste. Which is always a problem of who wants the nuclear waste buried deep down near them. But one way nuclear waste can be stored in a way that kind of neutralizes a lot of the issues that it can pose of the radiation leaking out and other things associated with it is a process called vitrification, which is not unique to nuclear power, but is used. And it effectively transforms or embeds, suspends the nuclear waste into glass. Yeah, exactly. It's a relatively simple process, quite hard to do in practice. You just heat it up to very high temperatures, just in quotes, with molten radioactive glass.
I was going to say with a nuclear bomb.
But yes, they're quite hard to do in practice to actually get that working in a way that manages the radioactivity of it. And one of the issues they've had is the equipment you need is just it's really hard to find something that can handle molten radioactive glass without corroding in the process. And a study has just come out last year that found a new alloy made from a combination of nickel, chromium, and a little bit of aluminium is much more up to the task. It's being recommended in this new research to replace the existing alloy called alloy 690 with alloy what number, Max?
600, I don't know. 91?
693. Alloy 693. And it is, of course, our 693rd show, Max. On this show, No Idea, your weekly dose of science. Coming up, I've got some stuff on a problem for future humans to deal with. We've got enough of our own problems that we've caused or that people before us have caused. A future problem of how to successfully reproduce in space. Some scientists have put human sperm as well as sperm from other animals in a microgravity situation to see how it reacts, as well as eggs and embryos of mice to see how they react. So I'll get into that. What do you got, Peter?
I'm going back to sperm whales. We haven't had enough of them. More incredible footage has come out about sperm whales in the past week, so get excited for that. I cannot wait to tell everyone about the sperm whale stuff. And we're looking at some hairy situations first.
Nice. And
Max?
I'll be talking about AI as usual, so job done there.
Gabe Gabe is the only one out of the four of us who has a beard. That's correct.
Yeah.
Max, you can have one. Gabe, does that beard grant you any special abilities?
Special abilities. I think the day I got the beard properly, and it was not just hairs on a face, and it became something that you would recognize as a beard. I'd never been carded again.
Yes, ID, 100%. Yeah.
I think that is the genuine superpower I've gotten out of it.
But you don't have any, it doesn't give you any special abilities. It just changes the way people see you, right?
I think that's a special ability.
I don't think so. I bet you wish you had whiskers, because despite us calling beards whiskers, they are not. Did you know that all mammals, except for humans and monotremes, have whiskers?
There you go.
All mammals except for humans and monotremes. So platypus, echidnas, and humans.
Yep.
Wait, a chimpanzee has whiskers?
They have whiskers. We still have the associated muscles, but we've actually lost the sensory bits. Whiskers aren't always on the face, but by the way, just so you know, you can have whiskers in other parts of your bodies, but commonly we see them on the face. We do still have the facial muscles, but lost the actual whiskers. And we are so missing out. Whiskers are incredibly tactile hairs. So they are a hair, but they're used to sense all sorts of things. They function kind of like the needle of a record player. So as they brush or detect movement, the disturbances are translated into vibrations of the whisker itself, which are then picked up by hundreds of motion sensing nerve cells packed inside the hair follicle at the base. So it's essentially, to me, it's analogous to hearing in that you're feeling, your brain is understanding and recognizing patterns from frequencies, but with touch rather than sound. And so who has some of the most sensitive whiskers of all? Seals! Seals do. Rats and cats have about 100 to 200 nerve cells per whisker, and if you have a cat, you know how sensitive they are. Like, they use those things for everything. They're really, really, really sensitive. You don't want to touch them too much. Seals, in comparison to their 100 to 200 nerve cells, have 1,500 nerve cells per whisker, making seal whiskers among the most richly innervated sensory structures of any mammal. So very, very, very sensitive. And whiskers serve various purposes, but they're most commonly used to locate food, and that's sort of across anyone who has them. You're going to do that, you're probably going to use it to find food. Now, seals are really highly capable hunters. They're very, very good hunters. And despite sort of operating in conditions that are often with very poor visibility, they're able to do this. So they have murky water, low lights, and significant depth a lot of the times. So that kind of makes eyesight not as useful. So that might be why they have these really, really highly innervated whiskers, is so that they can sort of compensate and rely on those. And one of the things they'll do, and you can see this, is they actually, whenever they're following a fish, they'll extend their whiskers forward. So they kind of just like push them forward to follow the hydrodynamic trails left by swimming fish. So as fish swim, sort of like if you've ever seen those diagrams where you see a plane and you can like see the air swirls behind it, those sort of trails, but in the water. It happens whenever anything's displacing water, you leave those trails, and essentially their whiskers can feel that in the water, so they can chase a fish with very little eyesight just by feeling the trail of it, like its wake, basically. Now, these nerves just relay that information to their brain, but information about the direction, the velocity, the duration of the movement, and it's so good that it actually allows seals to detect the precise location, the size, the texture, and a bunch of other things about that object. With seals specifically, they're actually so sensitive that they can discriminate the species, or at least the size of their prey. Like, long after it swam away, they can say what it was and where it went, which is really useful to them because you can kind of figure out, like, do I want to follow it if I can't see it? Now, unlike most mammal whiskers, seal whiskers are very stiff, like notably so, and they don't taper. So if you think about like a rat or a cat whisker, it gets really thin and flexible at the end. Not so with seals. They're pretty thick the whole way through, and they're really, really, really stiff. And so people think that this is probably so that they can suppress their own vibrations. So like their body is moving through the water, so you kind of have to like counteract that to be able to count other vibrations. And it keeps their sensory signal system just about things externally to them. And the other interesting thing about seals is that, like rats and cats, they whisk. It's called whisking, which is essentially when they move their whiskers back and forth rhythmically. So forward, back sort of movements. And so in rodents, they've actually researched this, and they found that the benefit is that they actually get 25 times per second more like data to build better maps of their environment by moving them back and forth. So that's been known for a really long time, but no one knew why seals did it. That's where we step in. So researchers from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, QS ranking please.
Ooh.
58.
126.
Yeah, something in that. I'm with you, Izzy.
It's 147.
Oh, damn!
University of Groningen is out here. And they were trying to figure this out with a robot. And just like that, Max is interested again.
Robot seal.
Because these researchers built a seal head.
Yeah.
Like they 3D printed it. So it's this like grey, you know how 3D printed things are kind of like boxy? It's like this grey, boxy kind of looking seal. These weird eyes. And then just sticking out the side of it are real seal whiskers that were donated from a seal rehabilitation place. So just sort of, it's a really funky looking thing because it just looks like a plastic seal head and then real like yellowy whiskery hairs that are quite thick. So funky looking robot. But they had an artificial muscle system attached to those whiskers that could physically mimic the way that seals move them. And then so it can control like the position where it was like forward or back. And then also the stiffness of it was something they could control, which is quite cool. And so what they found is that when whiskers were pushed forward, they actually became way more sensitive to the water movements. But, and here's the big thing, it's required active muscle effort to maintain. So it's like flexing constantly to keep them forward. And then when they were retracted, the sensitivity was lower, but they didn't have to use their muscles constantly. So what they found is that for them, the active sort of whisking, going forward and back and forward and back, is sort of them resting. Like it's sort of a middle ground. It's like I'm going to get more information, and then I'm going to rest. And get more information, then I'm going to rest. Almost like reps at the gym, if that makes sense. Like tense, rest, tense, rest, tense, rest. And they can do it for a lot longer if they do that. So it does actually help them with their detection of stuff. They can find, fish better when it's forward, but they've got to rest every now and again. So that's kind of cool. It's just them being more economic in their energy. And it's sort of a broader pattern in mammal biology. In some mammals, those individual muscles allow whiskers around the nose to be moved independently, whereas other ones in their body can't, which kind of suggests that fine motor control, so like having fine control over the movement of those whiskers, is widespread and really important. It's not just each species sort of evolving this on their own. Is that, especially with facial whiskers, they think that it is important to be able to move them around. The other weird thing to come out of this, you might be wondering why they went to a robot. Well, because I was like, I'm sure we could do this some other way. The researchers, being tech bros, are thinking that they could use this as maybe a replacement for sonar. So conventional underwater robots use like active sonar, which, emits ultrasonic pulses, and then the like pulses come back, sort of like bats or dolphins, blah, 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 blah. But whisker-based passive sensing would detect natural flow disruptions without producing anything, so they wouldn't be making sound, they wouldn't be disrupting the environment necessarily, which would be a lot more environmentally friendly, and I think it's a really cool idea. I also just would really like to see a submarine with whiskers. Like at what point are we just making a giant seal?
Nice.
Yeah, yes.
I feel like every time we do a new iteration, we're like, it's inspired by nature. We're just making a seal.
Yeah.
So let's just go full send, make a seal, and then put people inside it.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. The bow just has the head of a seal on it. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah,
That's so
I think
cool.
that's fine.
Max, we've got a lot of problems in the world, a lot of problems that we've caused, a lot of problems that have been caused for us. So I wanted to get into a problem that we won't have to think about. This is a problem for future humans, for the Hail Mary Martian type situations of the future, about how human sperm and eggs might react to zero gravity.
Yeah.
If we're ever trying to reproduce in space or on a planet with a lot lower gravity than Earth has. Because there's been scientists in Adelaide that have put sperm and fertilized eggs in a maze that mimics the reproductive tract, and then put that maze inside a 3D clinostat machine that simulates close to 0 Gs to see what happens. It's come out of the University of Adelaide. You got a QS ranking?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, 144.
This one was
200.
no, 78.
It's 82.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I remember it went under 100 because they merged.
Yeah.
The Uni of
Oh, of
South
course.
Australia and Adelaide Uni merged into Uni of Adelaide, and it was published in Communications Biology, one of Nature's journals. A 3D clinostat machine is a pretty amazing bit of kit. Very simple concept of just trying to It's not 0G, it's called microgravity, and you effectively just rotate stuff so much that there is no consistent effect of gravity happening. If you imagine trying to take a Connect 4 board, and it's open at all, but it's open at all ends, right? And you put one token in the middle, and you're trying to rotate it around so that the thing moves around a little bit. It's never sort of just fully holding itself in place with gravity, but you're rotating that Connect 4 board in a way that it never falls out.
Yeah,
like it's spinning so much.
Falling. Yeah, gotcha.
It's always falling. Exactly. That little token inside is always falling, but never really moves towards the edge. It's just spinning at a rate perfectly that the gravity just sort of holds it in that one spot within the board. And so it's rotating on that vertical or horizontal axis as well as the vertical axis. So it's rotating in both directions. It's like rotating in the direction that a globe would spin as well as the direction that a globe would spin if you had it on its side and spun it at the same time. So it's got two parts to it, and it's constantly rotating on those two planes. It effectively means there is no constant force of gravity impacting these things. Anything you put in these machines, they'll be suspended on something. They'll be sort of within a fluid or held down, whatever the experiment is. In this case, it was the stuff was put in a fluid, but there's no gravitational effect constantly pushing down in one direction. So you kind of cancel out any biological signaling that could be going on that relies on that constant gravitational force to help with these processes. So they did a couple of different studies in this, different parts of the experiment. We'll start with the sperm and then we'll get into the fertilized eggs and the embryos. They tested sperm from mice, pigs, and humans, putting them inside this 3D climostat machine to imitate microgravity, very, very low gravitational effects. Within that, they had them sort of at one end of a tube, and they were trying to see how many reached the other end of the tube. That was basically the setup. They had them in a couple of different fluids, and there was different bits and pieces that they varied, but that was the general experiment. Can they reach the other end of the tube? Because you'd expect them to have some level of swimming, knowing where the edge is, and continuing to swim until they, find a new place to go. They're trying to swim to as far up, as away from where they started as they can. So they just tried to see how many of them reached the other end of the tube. And what they found was when they're in normal gravity, depending on what fluid they were suspending them in, they was sort of 40 to 50% roughly were making it to the other end when they tested that. But when they put them in 0G, that was roughly half that amount were reaching the other end. So clearly something's going on there. The senior researcher involved, Dr. Nicole McPherson, says this is the first time we have been able to show that gravity is an important factor in sperm's navigation abilities. So showing that sperm seems to use gravity to some extent to orient itself into which direction to swim.
Keep it grounded, yeah.
Keep it grounded, that's right. They then interestingly added progesterone, which is a natural hormone released around an egg. And they found that with enough of it, at low levels it didn't really help, but with enough of it, it did seem to help get the results back towards even between the microgravity and the normal gravity experiments. So they want to do more testing there, and if perhaps the sperm has sort of multiple fallbacks it can use, a combination of physical feedback, of hormones, of gravity, and so maybe one can balance out the loss of gravity. But they did show there was a gravitational effect, and they also showed that there was no difference in how the sperm was moving. The motility was the same. Like the sperm were moving around exactly the same between the microgravity and the normal gravity, but they just weren't reaching the destination as much in the microgravity. So then they tested with eggs at the other end, not for humans in this one. This was just animal testing, but they had eggs at the other end and tried to see what the fertilization rate was at either end in the microgravity and in the normal gravity. They found 30% lower fertilization rates in the microgravity setup, which was sort of running for a few hours. They had a few different conditions they were running, but about a few hours they were giving it, and 30% less fertilization rate in the microgravity situation. So another, not only does it show that the sperm has a lower success rate of reaching the end of this setup, but the fertilization rates are actually lower as well. And then they tested mouse embryos, so fertilized eggs that have started to develop, and they found that when they were exposed to microgravity, early mouse embryos experienced developmental delays and some reduced cells as well. So showing that there's some developmental issues for low gravity, microgravity situations, at least in these early developmental stages in mouse embryos, which just shows us that gravity plays an important role, at least in mouse reproduction, but probably in human reproduction too. We can presume that would spread across other mammals, if not further out across the animal kingdom, that reproduction is going to be just different and hard and have a lot of issues without the effects of gravity that our biology seems to rely on as a constant sort of force to help with, in the case of the sperm, with the navigation, and in the case of development, there's something going on there that they're not 100% sure about that seems to be linked to the developmental delays and some reduced cells in mouse embryos. So some really interesting stuff weird but interesting stuff out of the University of Adelaide. Thank you for subscribing. Shows that, gravity is going to be an interesting one for us to deal with in the future.
So a question to the group: how will we know when AI reaches true intelligence?
True intelligence.
Once they've defined consciousness, they're doing this.
Yes,
they have to define consciousness first, and then once they've done that, they can say whether it is or is not conscious.
Maybe we can ask ChatGPT what consciousness is.
That's right. A new benchmark consisting of 2,500 plus ultra challenging questions across 100 plus different subjects hopes to address this. It's strangely called, this is the benchmark, it's called Humanity's Last Exam.
Oh no.
Nice. Cool. Always wanted to live in a Terminator film.
It's been created by the Centre for AI Safety and Scale AI. Now, AI...
they sound really hopeful, don't they?
Yeah.
It's a positive future. AI benchmarks are important tools for tracking the rapid advancements in large language models, or LLM, capabilities. However, benchmarks are not keeping pace, and LLMs now achieve over 90% accuracy on popular benchmarks like MMLU, which stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding. Enter Humanity's Last Exam. Sorry, Peter?
It's kind of like Squid. They just give it there's giant, colossal, massive, we just keep giving big names. Nice. Big.
It's a global effort with questions from nearly 1,000 subject expert contributors affiliated with over 500 institutions across 50 countries. The questions were designed by expert academics and often require understanding visual diagrams or specialised, non-indexed academic knowledge. Although the questions have been publicly released, there is also a private pool of test questions. Here's a sample chemistry biology question. What was the rarest noble gas on Earth as a percentage of terrestrial matter in 2002?
What?
Argon.
What?
It was argon, wasn't it? Or was that in the 70s?
It's argon neson, whatever that is.
What?
Oh,
Hang
it's
on.
a version of argon.
Pause. Is this? Are we meant to know this off the top of our head, or is it an open book test?
It's open book test.
Oh, okay.
I guess. Well,
easy.
Aren't LLMs like open book tests at people anyway?
Yeah,
That's because I was gonna. What?
Yeah.
A question.
I mean, what, from the ultra hard, what was this called? The most challenging question?
I need some practice exams.
At the moment, the LLMs achieve very low accuracy when it comes to the humanities last exam. But history has shown that large language models dramatically progress from near zero to near perfect performance in a short time frame. And given the rapid pace of AI development, it is plausible that models could exceed 50% accuracy on the HLE by the end of 2025. And to that end, the latest iteration of Gemini has achieved almost 46% accuracy on the humanities last exam.
But critically, this still isn't consciousness. It's just how good are you at doing an open book exam.
Yeah.
You have access to all of the materials in the universe and it can very quickly sort through them. It's just how quickly can it find the thing it's looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an intelligence test, though, right? Not a consciousness test.
Sure.
Yeah, but is that even intelligence?
Yeah.
That depends on
and
how
that's
you
what they're going to
intelligence.
define then, don't they? The link between intelligence and consciousness, I guess. So,
Yeah, because intelligence is like, I think it's a very specific part of it.
So look it up, everyone. Humanity's last exam. Job done.
I just would love to be in the meeting
Oh.
room of thinking what we're going to call this testing model, and someone's like, humanity's last exam.
Wow, one of them's translating Roman inscriptions. and oh my goodness, and like really in-depth hummingbird biology. What is
Next
this
week
test?
on No Idea, 4 humans versus 1
The maths
LM.
question.
And we get one question right.
The maths questions are nuts.
Oh no, there's maths on it. We're cooked.
There's plotting graphs.
Why would there not be?
Wow.
We had a good run, guys.
Do you know what tuna is?
Fish.
It's fish!
Thank God someone's working on this. I don't know what I'd do without it.
Fish are friends, not food.
Great start. Gabe, what does the cat say?
Yeah.
Max, what does the chicken say?
Cluck, cluck.
And Izzy, what does a shark say?
Okay, so if we thought the video of the sperm whales last week was cool, this week has blown me away. So scientists from Project SETI, which we've talked about a couple times before, it's one of my favourite projects that's going on in the ocean, have captured a video of a sperm whale birth for the first time. And it's crazy because wild cetacean births are actually extremely rare to document. We've seen a birth in fewer than 10% of the roughly 93 known cetacean species. Cetaceans, by the way, dolphins, whales, porpoises, that family. Marine mammals that aren't seals. And only 9, and not otters, and we've only seen 9 species have wild births at all, of the 93. Like, that is just ridiculous. And in the last 60 years, there's only been one previous scientific observation of a sperm whale birth, and it was mainly, there's some accounts from whaling, you know, which is just like written stuff. But we haven't really seen it in detail before, and it certainly hasn't been recorded like this before. And because we haven't seen it, we've got a lot of unanswered questions about, like, whale birth, I guess, or cetacean birth. Like, how do social dynamics, like, and, like, how do they work together? Is it a social event? It's like one of the most critical moments in their lives. What happens? Do they communicate differently during these high stakes events like birth? And this is critically because in this study, this is done by Project SETI. Project SETI, CETI, is different to SETI, but a part of Project SETI, which you might remember from the film Contact, or just generally if you know.
Nice.
Alien fans, SEAL fans. So Project SETI is out there to try and communicate with extraterrestrial life or meet extraterrestrial life. And so one of their ideas was, well, if we want to talk to aliens like Project Hail Mary vibes, we're going to have to figure out how to talk to animals first, right? So they found whales that are highly social and have these like very complex vocal systems, and they're trying to decode that first as like a proxy, because if they can do that, then they can talk to others. So that's why they're interested in the communication in this event as well, and why they had so many recording devices out. There's also things about, like, does this tell us about how whales evolved? Like, what happened? How does this all happen? But sperm whales are among some of the most socially complex species on Earth. There's like decades of field research supporting the idea, specifically around this, that they do collective care for calves. So what that means is really that sperm whales takes a village to a whole nother level. Like, they have one of the longest gestation periods in the animal kingdom, from 14 to 16 months. They're born about 4 meters long. But the really interesting thing is that they depend on breast milk for about 2 years after they're born, and they're kept within the matriarchal pod of all the women for quite a long time, until they're like a teenager. And during that time, they become like the social center of the pod. Like, everything revolves around them. And specifically, while they're nursing in those 2 years, multiple adult females will nurse the calf, not just the mum. So they do something called allo nursing, or like friend nursing. So all the females will nurse the calf, which is really incredible, and not something you see that often. It's a very social thing to do. So what happened here? Well, researchers were doing routine observation of this very well-known pod called Unit A, which is the most friendly name I've ever heard. I feel like a lot of the time these I was like, usually the pods get kind of cooler names, like they've got like Queen Bee or something. This is just Unit A. Anyway, So they were just looking at them when this happened. All 11 members of Unit A were identified. So the unit has 2 matrilines, meaning there are 2 main matriarchal leaders, so 2 grandmothers basically, with known relationships going back to 1996 and sort of documented that entire time. So they know their entire family tree from these 2 ladies. It took place off of Dominica in the Eastern Caribbean on the July 8th, 2023, and we may have seen the videos come out around that time. What they've done now is given us all of this information with it. And it's sort of like a home video in the 90s. They really tried to capture this very intimate event from every angle. They had aerial video, underwater audio, shipboard photography, behavioural observation. They were just watching this in every way they could. So here's what happened. At 11:12 a.m., the tips of the newborn's flukes, so its tail, were first observed emerging from the mother. The mother's name is Rounder, by the way. It is. It's
Tail
feet
first.
first.
Yeah. Okay.
Tail first is very common in cetaceans. So other adult females, as this happened, immediately oriented towards the birth. They would just dive under Rounder, belly up, sort of facing and looking at and being around where the baby was emerging. And then blood, and there was some feces at about 11:42, 11:45, and at 11:45 the birth was complete, which is a total active labour of only 34 minutes, which I think a lot of mums would be quite jealous of. I mean, this baby was 4 meters long. That's quick, girl.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then the newborn surfaced for its first breath about 1 minute and 15 seconds after its birth and was attempting to swim within 3 minutes. Now, the newborn, like many dolphins and whales, was fluke first. The idea of this is that if you have your head last, it actually reduces the drowning risk. Because it takes some time, at 34 minutes, you kind of need to
34 minutes is a long time for a little calf to hold its breath. Yeah.
Exactly. Given that they can't do that. So a lot of cetaceans go feet first, I guess. And then immediately after birth, this is when everything happened. All the adults, including the younger juveniles, became highly, highly active. They were squeezing the newborn between their bodies, touching it with their heads, directing their noses towards it, and within a minute, the newborn was repeatedly lifted out of the water by the adults, sometimes nearly completely clear of the surface, its entire 4-meter body above the surface of the water. And the reason for this is that newborn sperm whales are negatively buoyant, which essentially means they sink. They naturally sink. They don't have enough oil in their spermaceti organ. They have less fat. They've got smaller lungs. They just can't stay afloat on their own. And so a lot of cetaceans will lift their young when they're born to give them their first breath. But this, which is called collective lifting, where the entire pod got involved, or multiple members of the pod got involved, is very rare, or is less commonly seen. It's only seen in a couple of whales. But the pod continued the lifting behaviour for 3 hours. Not continuously, but pretty often. Most of it was them lifting the calf. And then they sort of just moved as a really tight cluster, often completely touching, always touching. And then at around 12 o'clock, which was 14 minutes after birth, they actually saw some pilot whales, 150 of them, sort of approach them. And the adult females were always positioning themselves between the newborn and the pilot whales, even underneath it, so that there was
because they're predators, right? Pilot whales?
No, this is the thing. Pilot whales are known to harass them, but neither of them are predators, and there's never been any they've never seen a negative interaction between them and a calf. So they're just they just seem protective, but they didn't really have any reason to be, because they also said that the pilot whales didn't even seem to be aggressive. So it was a bit weird. And then 2 hours after was when they started sort of dispersing. They were also incredibly loud this entire time. They were just talking. One of the things they were doing was saying the name of their unit. So they have a name for their pod in their language, and just were repeating that over and over and over again, which is sort of like a welcome to the pod, welcome to the pod, welcome to the pod thing, they think, so that it knows who it's born to. The other weird thing was that Alan was there. So Alan is a 15-year-old sub-adult male, and he's kind of in the process of being kicked out. We talked about this last week. Sperm whale pods are mainly made out of female adults, and then the males are sort of solitary. And so they get kicked out when they're teenagers. And so they thought that Alan's active participation in the social activity of the birth was really interesting. And it suggests that transitioning juvenile males do try and maintain some of those social bonds, particularly around siblings or calves. So that was really cool. And essentially, this is just, we've never seen this before. That's why this is so cool. So we know that it's a huge time for them socially. They immediately start what they call vocal grooming, telling the calf who they are, who they belong to, what's happening, but also physically protecting them from both other animals, but the water itself keeping them alive. So it's just a absolutely gobsmacking video seeing this. And it's even like the tail is still curled. It's flukes. They actually are curled in the womb, and so it hasn't flattened out yet. So if you see the video, you can see it's all sort of curled up as it's being lifted out of the water.
Single press overtake, stay in scenario 7.
If you push me off the track, I think you have to leave a space. All the time you have to leave a space.
Come on. Get it, kiddo. Get it. Woo!
Yeah, you don't need to tell me that.
Max, we're in this together, mate. Head down. Come on.
Yes! Great job, guys. That was hard work. Oh, that was hard work.
F1 happened in Japan on the weekend. It was a Suzuka circuit. Oh, any thoughts? Good race.
Very good race.
Oscar Piastri's first actual race of the year.
Yeah, good to see him out there on track
Yep.
during a Grand Prix.
Spoiler alert, there's no Aussie anthem. I was going to play it as an April Fool's thing, but no, I thought
it was too cruel?
Too cruel, yeah.
He's already had a rough season, dude. But the stats are looking good. Every race he starts, he comes second.
That's right,
so.
yeah. And he started from, P3, so second row of the grid, and managed to beat everyone into the first corner, and it was looking good. And if it wasn't for the safety car that came out mid-race, like on lap 22, the could have, should have, would have, we don't know. Could have won.
It's good, like, because it seems like McLaren, and they're saying they're now on top of the energy deployment. Because I guess regardless of the fact that they have supply from Mercedes, they still have to do the map themselves for, I guess, the deployment.
Yes.
Now they're understanding how to do that a bit better.
Yeah.
Which is good to see, because it almost looks like, especially now, well, we're off for a bit now, right, in April. That McLaren could potentially turn that into a really competitive package. I think they're in a better spot than even Ferrari.
Yes,
I think, based
exactly,
on that performance.
Yeah.
So.
But even George was saying the Ferraris were quick in all the right places, so he could never pass them.
Or is that a skill issue? I don't recall Antonelli having much trouble. I don't know.
Because Antonelli finished like 12 seconds ahead of Oscar, and then third was the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. So. Yeah, impressive race. Everyone's a bit upset that the super clipping and all that sort of stuff, but it resulted,
arguably in Behrman's crash because of Colapinto getting a bit of super clipping, and also Russell at that same part of the track having a weird blip as well, which they're now saying was a software issue. For the Mercedes power unit. So maybe that's, I don't know.
Okay,
it's a weird one.
They're having a meeting next Thursday, to address all these issues. Clearly, they won't be able to change much for this year, but hopefully they can build in new specs for 2027, let's say, because it'd be too much to remanufacture bigger batteries or bigger fuel tanks.
Yeah.
If there's something they can change on the mapping side, I think they can do it, right? Like if it's just a software change, I think that's probably the solutions they'll be looking towards, right? Like rather than something, as you say, more
nothing
drastic.
Physical, no.
Yeah,
for the moment. Yeah. But it's just they're all learning. I mean, the regs. Whenever new regs come in, there's always teams that rise to the top and teams that fall below. And unfortunately, Red Bull's fallen below the bar, which is unusual for them.
And they're saying it's actually a good engine that they've built. It's just that they've actually built a poor car this year.
Yeah.
In terms of like stability, right? Like it's both understeery and oversteery, and it's just all the things you don't want as a driver. Maxi's having more fun, taking his supercars around the Nordschleife.
Yeah, GT3s, So that'd be good to watch. Yeah. And as you said, and you got a feel for Aston Martin, who has spent like $500 million just to have the slowest car.
I did love the quote from Lance Stroll being like, "It was fun. Alonso and I had our own little championship
called the Aston Martin.
Aston Martin Championship, which was the most laps that they could do." So. I think everyone's hitting a certain point of, I don't want to say delusion, but having their own fun in their own ways.
Yeah.
So
Fernando, new dad as well.
Yeah. Oh, to Fernando Alonso Jr.
Yeah.
That's
it.
We're going to be watching Fernando Alonso for the next 50 years.
Do you reckon he'll still be racing by the time his kid gets to Formula 1?
That's right.
Oh,
100%. And Gabe, what did you think of the race?
It was interesting that once again the new regulations sort of dominate the chat because there was big issues in the practice of them having to just wipe huge amounts of speed off their cars in the straights to charge the battery. It's called super clipping. I don't know, if you've ever driven a hybrid or something and you've seen the recharge little meter go up on the car when you're braking, or you know, it's recharging the battery. It's the same concept that's happening in these Formula One cars, but they have these systems now that means they have to just back off the speed on the way into a corner, and they're wiping that speed into that energy from the speed the car's traveling at is getting converted into battery power that they can then press, on the exit of that corner into the next straight or whatever it is. And that actually makes the car go around the track faster, even if they're slowing themselves down deliberately in certain parts of it. So it's changed the face of the racing. There was the crash, which may trigger some changes to that now, because Ollie Behrman had an issue of just going way faster than the guy in front because they were using their battery in very different ways at different times, and nearly went straight into the back of him. He ended up going into the wall to avoid him. So usually these big safety shocks, thankfully there wasn't any serious injury, ongoing injury to Oliver Behrman, the driver, but these are usually the moments that force F1 to get its act together and make some changes. The drivers can complain as much as they want, but the spectacle was good. So it looked like things might not change much, but with an incident like that, maybe they will actually tweak things. They did already, like you said, Maxi, they can do tweaks very easily, and they did for qualifying. They reduced the amount of megajoules they're allowed to harvest in the qualifying lap. It's usually 9 megajoules, or was set at 9 megajoules. They dropped it to 8 after the practice sessions to try and reduce how much they were wiping speed off in the straights to charge up to. So there was less charge they could do. And so they would hopefully go a bit faster in those straights, the end of the straights. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It looks like they're going to have to make some sort of change if there's going to be a big safety issues of cars. We've all had this issue trundling down the freeway at 110, always 110, right on it, and then the 90k an hour or 80k an hour learners in front of you, and you come up behind them, and it legitimately can be dangerous in certain parts of the road. So you multiply that into the speeds of an F1 car where they're going 200k's, 300k's, whatever it is an hour, and then the speed differential that can be 50k's or more, and these cars that rely on being perfectly stuck to the road on the right racing line with the right balance, otherwise they go spinning. It is going to create safety issues. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks now that they've got a break, and see if they change stuff for the upcoming races.
In another open wheel series, we've got IndyCar, that's in North America. And we've got a couple of people we've invested in there with Scotty McLaughlin and Will Power. Unfortunately, it was won by Alex Palau. Aussie Will Power came home in 12th. And former F1 driver Mick Schumacher came home second last. So he's not enjoying his time in IndyCar.
Is Grosjean still in it?
No, yes, he is. Yeah. I don't know where he placed. I should look that up. What I am enjoying, though, is getting up on Monday mornings and watching NASCAR every week, because we've got Australian adjacent former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen getting around, and he's getting really good. He qualified 5th for the race on the weekend, and he came home in the top 10 plus one. So he came home in 11th.
Okay.
Yes.
The Baker's top 10.
The Baker's top 10.
On an oval circuit. So that's fantastic. And he's placing 14th in the championship. He has to be 16th or better to get into the playoffs at the end of the season, which is 10 races. So I'm really hopeful. He mightn't win the whole championship this year, but if things go to plan, he might actually win it in 2027. And he's learnt now that he has to use his left foot for braking. Unlike road circuits where he uses his right foot for accelerator and brake and the left foot for only clutch, he now uses his left foot for braking. And what he's got the team to do is actually separate the pedals a lot further apart, so he's not forced to use his right foot when he wants to go for the brake.
Because they rebuild those cars every week, right? The NASCARs.
Yeah, they're different car for every circuit. Yeah. MotoGP also happened on the weekend. It was at the Circuit of the Americas. And once again, you had to ride an Aprilia bike to win. And Marco Bezzecchi won riding a Aprilia. Aussie Jack Miller on the Yamaha finished distant 16th. It's very underperforming anyway. And sadly, no F1 for this month of April.
No, due to the
So,
ongoing
yeah.
situation in the Middle East.
Exactly.
Saudi and Bahrain have both been cancelled. With rumours that Las Vegas may pick up a double header, but that announcement I think is yet to be confirmed. So there may be a double header, or we might just do
I don't
the
think
22.
people living there would like that.
No, and there's
No.
already controversies with having a Las Vegas race,
Yeah.
period. So
Right.
we'll watch the space for now, but yes, there will be a long-term break.
And we'll be
Short-term
looking
break.
forward to the meeting with the FIA
Oh
next
my gosh,
week
yeah.
to see what they can resolve anything, if in it. But yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
No big racing coming up this weekend. It's 2 weekends until I think the Sail GP and
Yeah,
Supercars.
Easter
and
gets in
then
the way. Yeah.
3 weekends. It does indeed. 3 weekends until the other MotoGP. That's the one, and then F1 in 4 weeks.
Yeah, Maxi.
I think that's it. I think that's a wrap.
Cool, easy.
Nice.
You happy?
Got nothing to add.
Okay. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We've got Peter. We've got Gabriel. What do you got first, Issy?
I have more cane toad science, baby.
We need a
Let's
theme.
go.
We do need a theme. I am very excited because this one has a very fun method. I'm just pulling up a QS ranking right now, so
I gotta
but
say, I think it's really cool that we all have niches. I'm marine or wet. Gabe is terrestrial or dry. And Izzy's gone for amphibious.
yeah. And I just think as well, cane toads have just been like a reoccurring topic as well because they're just like these strange
Just in
little
your life.
animals that we keep fixating on. But
Rightly so, they're awful.
they are awful. That's the thing. It's a love-hate relationship going on right now.
It's a hate relationship.
It is a hate
I
relationship.
feel like the animal ethics committees let a lot more go when it's a cane toad
Yes.
study as well.
True.
But I have for you research focusing on some easy changes that farmers can implement for their cattle within relation to cane toads. So Curtin University.
Just stomp on them.
Yeah. Well, Curtin University,
Well-
QS ranking, please.
Curtin.
156.
Kurt 380.
120.
183, so probably
yeah,
closest
well
to
done,
Peter.
Peter.
They found that cane toads rely on artificial water points to survive and spread in landscapes that are not very cane toad friendly, like your hot or dry conditions. So, understanding how to prevent pests from congregating around major water sources, they've turned to farmers who have cattle because they often rely on larger bodies of water. And they examined looking at different types of cattle trouts and also fencing to prevent cane toads from getting in and thereby spreading. And the methodology for some of these trials are crazy. One experiment they did was by placing 100 toads in 4 large arenas, as they called them. 2 that
Hell
contained...
yeah, cane toad arena.
Cane toad arena. 2 containing big plastic mega trouts and 2 containing molded concrete trouts. So this is typically where food or water will come.
Trouts?
Do you mean a
Yes.
trough?
Trough?
Troughs?
Yeah.
Trough?
Yeah.
I think we mean troughs because a trout. I don't think
I was gonna say, I don't
cows
think
need
trouts.
trout.
Like
No,
the fish?
trough.
Or the feeding
Oh.
implement?
That's on me.
Didn't say anything
Troughs.
at the start because I was like, who knows? Maybe they're called trouts.
Oh god. Cane toads. The toads were given a maximum of 4 nights, so they were placed in the morning and then collected at sundown to breach these cattle troughs. Yes. With water on one side and the cane toads on the other, they were examining how swift moving they can be towards these certain arenas. Half of them, so one containing plastic and one containing concrete, had sand around them as well to examine whether that might be a deterrent. And they weighed them on their dehydration status. So seeing if these cane toads can naturally kind of make their way over with no exit ramp or entry ramp into the water troughs. What they found, which was amazing, I was reading this as we were coming live, was that, oh my God, where is it? The water loss for toads found in trough trial areas, they steadily lost mass throughout time due to that water loss. The rate of water loss was slower than other arenas, presumably due to a large water spill during setup. So they obviously held other experiments. the one that I was really interested at looking at was 168 hand-collected cane toads were used and placed in individual square cardboard boxes that were 50 by 50 centimeters. Walls of 20, 30, 40, 45, 50, and 60 centimeters tall to see whether or not they could escape, and they were given an hour.
How high does the gate need to be?
Yeah, exactly. They found that more than 99% could not clear barriers higher than 51 centimeters. So they just hit a certain point above 50. Cane toads could not jump any higher. If you're like me and you struggle with imagining centimeters, I found a great article about what 50 centimeters looks like. It's your standard guitar neck, computer keyboard, small TV screen, skateboard deck, or large loaf of bread, if that helps you visualize.
Very large loaf of bread.
Very large loaf of bread.
Really a baguette.
I would argue baguette. Yes.
A baguette.
But maybe not a French baguette, like a baguette that you get at an Australian bakery.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like once your bread can't be measured on the ruler you keep in your school pencil case, it's a baguette.
It is a baguette. So for those, a visualization. And they said it didn't really matter what the fencing material was made out of as well. As long as it was solid, they could just
electrified.
No, easily implemented. Researchers said that the changes don't require large-scale or expensive farm redevelopment. They really wanted to look at low-cost, smaller changes that farmers can make, because obviously farming is a lot of money. And it only needed to be functioning in the dry months of the year where water was not available elsewhere. Because
does this mean that if it's 51 centimeters, could we make a cane toad proof fence?
Yes.
We've done it before.
With
We've
rabbits.
put the effort in before. Maybe
Yes.
let's just go all out.
Maybe
on the
we'll
fence,
just do the
because most of
perimeter.
us can just step over
It seems so
Yes.
more impressive when we were talking about it than
I
you
know.
guys see it.
And then when you think about it, because they're quite small, but just 51 was too much. 50, you got to keep it. 51
Could you see
was
it
too
from
much.
space, do you reckon?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
The question is, how big of a wall could cane toads evolve to jump over?
that's
Because
what I
the
was
ones-
also thinking.
The ones on the frontier of the invasion of Australia at the moment, as they move across to the west through Northern Territory into WA,
Mhm.
they have much longer, stronger legs than the ones in the
They're
core of
bigger,
the Queensland,
So-
Queensland range.
Stronger.
This research took place in Northern Territory as well. So they used
Ah.
hand-collected cane toads from a reserve in Northern Territory where
So they
Curtin
got the
University's
elite
campus was. So I'm wondering whether if you could get some suckers from Queensland cane toads, and maybe some New South Wales stragglers as well, put them in cane toad arena.
Yeah, cane toad arena, cane toad gladiator.
Cane
We
toad
find the strongest
gladiator.
one by
Uh-huh.
one. They pick each other off. Then we take the strongest one, see the highest fence that they can jump,
Yeah.
fence them off.
And let's build it.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's my pitch.
4ZZZ is hard to label. It's radio, it's music, it's art, it's culture, it's people, it's a network, it's Brisbane. This is April Atonement. Support us. Support Me Engine. If you're subscribing for the first time, it's time you subscribed again. Or if you have friends that would be right at home here, go to 4ZZZ.org.au and listen on 102.1 FM.
Tuning to 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy, we've got Peta, we've got Gabe, and we're going to talk about April Atonement.
You have something to atone for now, Max.
Yes,
so
I
you'll
do.
need to up that subscription to 4ZZZ.
Yes.
But yes, we're getting some good text in. Owen texted in earlier saying, surely the link between consciousness and intelligence is a 4ZZZ subscription. Couldn't have said it better ourselves, Owen. On the back of your last humanity test, or whatever it's called, humanity's last test, Max, that you put us through.
Yes.
What the heck was that? And a non-sub texted in, AI will finally achieve consciousness when it looks at this test and says, no thanks, I'm going for a beer. How good is that? That is
Aren't
the
we
true
good?
answer. Of going, no, I'm good. But yes, it is April Atonement, which means it is a month where we ask people who's if your subscriptions lapse, or if this is the time of year you subscribe, or if you've never subscribed, this is the month to make things right and to support 4ZZZ, to keep pumping out community radio 24/7 for Brisbane and the surrounding area, be it us on the Science Show or anyone else who you listen to on this massive and diverse channel of volunteers. Every single one of us on air does this as a volunteer bit of a gig, just because for the love of the game.
Yep.
For
And
the love of
the
the
reason
game.
we can do it, the reason there's microphones in front of our faces and and panels that work and lights that are on and radio waves that are going out and hitting your radio wherever you're listening to us is because of the subscriptions to 4ZZZ. It keeps the station going. It keeps all community radio going, and 4ZZZ's no different. So if you have lapsed, or if this is the time of year, or if you've never done it before, give it a go. 4ZZZ.org.au is the website, and have a look at the April Atonement stuff that's up there, because there's a bunch of prizes that you go into the running for if you subscribe during April as our way of giving back to some lucky winners who do atone in April. What do you got, Izzy? You got the prizes up for us?
I do have the prizes for you. You've probably heard them as well as we've been playing through the show, but I'm going to talk about one that I really like, which is the Stork Furniture Cool J record console. They're a local furniture designer and maker in East Brisbane. They do mid-century inspired pieces, and I've offered one of their most popular pieces, the LP Cool J record console, to one lucky 4ZZZ subscriber. So if you subscribe during 4ZZZ, you're going to have to fight me for that one. So hope that helps. And you know what? I'm going to run through some stats as well, because of course we're the science show.
Yeah.
Did you know it costs us $90 to produce a single hour of radio? So we're what, an hour and a half in? We're what, $100 plus already you've been listening to? So 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Chuck us some money. Join us on the Warm Inner Glow. And because we love our prizes, there are fewer subs in Radiothon than in April Atonement. So the chances of you winning a prize are actually statistically a lot higher than any other subscriber drive. Yeah. So why not give it a go?
And you got the whole month
the
of
prices
April.
there, Max, for the options?
Yeah, if you're under 18, it's $25. If you're a pet, you subscribe your pet for $25. Concession is $40. A full subscription is $80. A passionate subscriber, $140. You get a shirt and all that sort of stuff. A super sub, $500. You get your name written downstairs for all eternity. Well, for another 50 years, this station's going to go for. I reckon we should hit 100. Yeah, I'll be dead, but that's all right.
What the hell? If you want to see the full list of prizes, jump on the website as well.
Exactly. What do you got for us, Gabe?
What I've got for you, Max, is vaping, and one of the what the authors call by far the strongest evidence yet that vaping causes cancer. It's an Australian study, and how they got to that conclusion is pretty impressive. So let's get into it a little. It's led out of the UNSW, University of New South Wales. Got a QS ranking?
Yeah, 20.
42.
21.
It is 20.
Yeah.
Max just knows it.
Yeah, sorry.
What the hell?
I think that's one of the 100 questions on the last humanity test or whatever it is. They went through from 2017 and mid-2025, just because that's kind of when this paper was submitted, and went into peer review. And then they looked at every peer-reviewed research publication about the health impacts of vapes in considering the potential cancer causation. So every paper between 2017 and 2025 that could be about vapes and cancer they looked at, which is dozens of papers cited in this research, and trawled through it and looked for, combining different methodologies, looking and trying to just make sense of all of this information that's out there. So a huge amount of work has gone into this review of all the literature that's out there. And what they're focusing on particular are potential carcinogens, so carcino as in cancer-gen as in creating, so cancer-generating bits of vapes in the aerosols. So they're looking at nicotine and its byproducts. They're looking at the vaporized metals from the heating coils in vapes. And they're also looking at organic compounds from the vaporizing e-liquids that are in there as well. So there's kind of three main channels through which you could get carcinogens from vaping into your body. What they found in mice was there is a link. They found a causative link because they can do much better.
They love their
quicker.
Vapes.
They might do, Max. They probably do get hooked on the nicotine, but because you can do mouse studies much quicker and look at the health impacts, isolate one variable, and the mice die. They kill the mice and look through their bodies and look what's happened. So there is a clear link in mouse studies that vaping is causing increased rates of cancer in the mice. And then in humans, what they found throughout these papers is not a full, clear, definite link of vaping causing cancer, but we are as close as you can get based on where the literature's at the moment. Remember, it took about 100 years to formalize the link between smoking and increased rates of cancer, particularly lung cancer. And so we're only 9 years into this. They started in 2017, and so they've gotten very close already in this study. Obviously, the scientific world's gotten a bit more advanced and is looking for these things. But so what they found was the aerosols that vapors inhale contain those complex range of chemicals. The aerosols across those, the nicotine products, the heating coils having vaporized metals, the organic compounds from the e-liquids that cause the vaporization or help with the vaporization. They found almost all of the 10 key characteristics of carcinogens identified by the World Health Organization across those. They said in blood and urine analyses from vapors that confirmed that they had absorbed chemicals from e-cigarette chemicals linked to cancer, revealing that nicotine and its breakdown products present in bodies, including carcinogenic metals from the heating elements and organic compounds from vaporizing e-liquids. So they're finding in blood and urine, they're finding these chemicals present, right? So the chemicals are known to be cancer-causing, and they are present in blood and urine of humans who vape. They also say there is no doubt that vaping alters tissues in the mouth and lungs, finding evidence of mutations in DNA from the mouth and lungs in those who vaped, which is, again, more evidence of exposure to those carcinogenic parts of the vapes. And they also found changes to cancer biomarkers in the lung and mouth tissue of vapors. So, in other words, in mouse vaping studies, there is the smoke, the signs of cancer, and there is the fire, the actual direct link of vaping causing higher rates of cancer. And in the human studies, there is the smoke, the signs of cancer damage, there is the glow of a fire, and we haven't quite got the exact flame nailed down yet, but we're about as close as you can get so to saying that vapes cause those higher rates of cancer, particularly in the lungs, in lung cancer. So it's difficult. It's just that they just need to do more studies to do that final link, but this is as close as it gets. Like, the data will just be a bit tricky to pull apart because it's very hard to find. They said the authors were saying it's hard to isolate the impacts of vaping and smoking because the crossover is there in so many people. So to actually just get the vaping studies, you either need to be able to really carefully control statistically for the smoking impacts, or you need to get a really big long-term population of people who vape, who are representative of the population. So that's just going to take time to get that data. I'm sure that research is going on as we speak, but they're saying in the meantime, I wouldn't wait for that data to come in. If you're on the fence, and it's as close to saying it causes cancer as you can get. Sorry, Izzy.
And it's still quite interesting, the conversation that's happening, that people are saying vaping is a good way of not a better alternative to smoking, but that kind of gateway into both, either from vaping to smoking or smoking to vaping. So it is interesting now, having, for a conversation that we've had for many years of vaping is bad for you, now having this confirmed science really helps back those kind of conclusions. So
yes.
Broken it down
and on that in particular, Izzy, I pulled out a quote in response to this from Professor Becky Freeman at the University of Sydney, who I don't believe is involved in the study, but is an expert in the field, and was commenting that for any person who has successfully given up smoking by using vapes, this new research does not in any way suggest going back to smoking. So she wanted to make that clear. Smoking is uniquely harmful, killing 2 out of 3 people who continue to smoke. The results of this paper reinforce that Australian laws that limit vapes to pharmacy-only access for people who are using them to quit smoking are the right approach. Not that that is clear, that link.
Thank you to the sub. Well timed.
Not that is a clear, a strong link, but there was another paper out this week by UK, US, and Australian researchers that did find that through meta-analysis of e-cigarettes, so vaping, for smoking cessation, stopping smoking, it said that it was a good way of getting people to stop smoking for at least 6 months. That was the threshold they used in this study, when compared to nicotine patches, placebos, behavioral support. So there was a paper out literally this week that did find that vaping is a decent stepping stone if it's done, through the pharmacy, through prescriptions, towards getting off smoking. And Professor Becky Freeman supports that, saying this is in no way a suggestion that the two are as bad as each other, and you shouldn't, if you've successfully given up smoking by vaping, that you should go back to smoking. It doesn't in any way suggest that. But
That's brilliant.
but to finish up, I'll quote the lead author who wrote a great conversation piece about it if you want to read more, who said, there isn't direct evidence that there are more cancer cases than expected amongst people who vape, but that the evidence shows nicotine-based vapes are likely to cause oral and lung cancer. We just don't know how many cases it will cause. So it's more a question now of formalizing that link and figuring out just how bad it is. But of course, we do know just how bad the smoking rates are. And so in no way does this research suggest that the two should be interchanged in any way. But yeah, amazing research and led out of the UNSW and with a lot of Australians on the paper and possibly the biggest analysis that's been done yet on that link between vaping and cancer. So great to see some pretty solid science come out about it.
No idea. Space news. A couple of weeks back, we were speaking about the astronauts that were stranded on the International Space Station, even though NASA said they weren't stranded at all, but they were. And anyway, were they owed any back pay for their time? Because they only meant to go up there for 8 days. It turns out that the two astronauts, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, did not receive any overtime pay for their extended...
What? No way.
Yeah,
None?
Well, a little bit.
Being in space.
They spent 286 days in space. Okay, so as a federal employee...
Surely you at least get time and a half.
This is the official word from NASA. As federal employees on official travel orders, they only received their normal salary, which I have to say is around 150K a year, so it's fairly good. Plus a
I would want
stuck in
minimum.
space.
And get this, plus a standard per day incidentals allowance of $5, which earned them
Oh my God.
an extra $1,430 for their time away.
Is there a union?
Astronauts union. There should be now. Once they've realised that now it's not
Allowance of
working.
$5 a day.
NASA has stated that they do not pay overtime, weekend or holiday pay for ISS missions, even
you can
when
tell it's an
stays
American
are extended.
company, can't you?
But to be fair, I'm siding with NASA on there because they did provide free meals, lodging, and transportation.
They did.
Okay, but what about psychological? What about medical?
That's so good.
Oh my God. $5.
Yeah. Here we go. You know about the astronaut that had to bring home early because of their medical emergency?
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not too. In January, NASA executed its first ever medical evacuation
Maybe let's not use the word executed.
from the International Space Station, and they brought home the whole Crew 11 mission early due to a sudden medical emergency involving NASA astronaut Mike Fink. Fink suffered a sudden temporary loss of speech. While eating dinner after preparing for a spacewalk, Fink lost the ability to speak for approximately 20 minutes. He reported no pain, felt fine afterward, but the incident was described as a very, very fast lightning bolt. I don't know why they call it that. As of late March 2026, doctors have not identified the cause. Tests have ruled out a heart attack and choking. Experts are investigating whether the incident is connected to the effects of the 549 days of accumulated weightlessness.
Wow.
Well, there's two areas in your brain that control like communication. So one's called Broca's area and one's called Wernicke's area, and I might get them confused, but I'm pretty sure Wernicke's area is the one that controls the sort of speech stuff. And sometimes there's like these very specific, I think there's probably more areas in that, but those two are commonly associated with things where people suddenly lose the ability to speak or write or do these sort of things. And there's one of them has this thing where if you ask someone a question verbally, they respond in completely fluent gibberish.
Love.
Which is really interesting.
That's just me on this show.
Yes. It's true, Max. Yeah. We should give you an MRI with all the other babies. But I wonder if it's something, because it sounds, if it's not physical in the throat, then you'd assume it's neurological, which means it could be one of these areas or another one of the vocal or speech areas. And a lot of those are quite, I don't understand how you would have that be affected and nothing else without some sort of physical trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting. Like, how is it neurologically?
Maybe he was worried about the spacewalk.
Well, there's actually an X-Files episode that's kind of similar to this in season 1 where Mulder and Scully have to assist an astronaut who is believed to possibly sabotage a NASA space shuttle program. And spoiler alert for a 30-year-old show, but possessed by an extraterrestrial spirit after a failed moonwalk.
Okay.
So that's your recommendation.
And that's fact. So.
Yeah.
That is fact.
And you know about the Scully effect.
Of course. I've mentioned it many times.
Cool. Okay. Anyway, Artemis 2 hopefully will fly today or sometime this month.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's been over 50 years, and it'll be the first time a woman gets to go around the moon.
Woo!
So that's exciting.
Huge for us.
Yeah. Her name's Christina Koch. First woman to venture around the moon. Job done.
Yeah, so the live stream, NASA's doing all the live streaming. So give it a watch and see if they get airborne today.
Airborne.
Could happen.
Sign us out, Gabe.
That is all we have time for. This show was brought to you thanks to all the subscribers to 4ZZZ. If you're not one of those subscribers, you can atone throughout the month of April and go into the running to win a bunch of prizes at 4ZZZ.org.au. That website is also where you can listen back to the full recording of this show with all the music in there, as well as a bunch of our previous shows. The condensed version is available on your podcasting platform of choice. Just search No Idea 4ZZZ. That's No with a K. No Idea 4ZZZ, and that handle is the same on our socials too, No Idea 4ZZZ, and you can watch back a bunch of clips of us on the show. Thanks to Toby for editing up the pod. Thanks to you, Max, Issy, and Peta for your stories this week. We'll be back in your ears next week. Between now and then, go give that sperm whale video a watch because it's amazing. Study up for humanity's last exam, see how high a cane toad will jump, and give the non-prescribed vapes a rest.
And we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.